Unfortunately, I made a presentation in Zoom, but I'm not sure why it won't upload to YouTube, so I'm trying on my phone. This is a redo. I'm so sorry. Anyways, this is my Windows and Mirrors video presentation, and I'm going to try to kind of summarize my slides. So, yeah. So the first book I chose is Breathe and Count Back from 10 by Natalia Celester. It follows Veronica, a 17-year-old Peruvian-American woman with hip dysplasia. Throughout the book, she struggles with her own autonomy and insecurity because of the psychological and physical toll of her illness. So swimming is a passion of hers, and she aspires to be a mermaid at a mermaid cove, so a professional mermaid at a theme park. And this book explores Veronica's complicated relationships, including romance and her fight for autonomy, and family secrets she discovers along the way, which made the book so much more intriguing to me. And through themes of acceptance, self-discovery, ableism, the book gives a real exploration to disability justice, immigrant existence, and personal empowerment. This novel did more than just widen my understanding of marginalized experiences by people with disabilities, but also sharpened my ability to connect with characters who face unique challenges. As a future educator, this growth is extremely important because it deepened my sensitivity to students' diverse learning needs and life experiences. Although I was already aware of the importance of noticing the differences and uniqueness of my future students, engaging with Veronica's story inspired me to advocate for literature and represents varied perspectives, fostering a classroom culture rooted in understanding and belonging. It also strengthened my critical thinking, encouraged me to approach educational texts with a mindset of that values depth, relevance, and accessibility for all students. And this book in general opened my eyes to the way disability, culture, and family are all intertwined, and it was such a rich and so the story was just so inspiring, and it really grew my perspective as a reader and a future educator. I realized how much authentic voices and diverse narratives matter in literature. And then my idea to summarize is I thought this would be a very good book to use in a group setting. So just group discussions about Veronica and her experience, how ableism and societal norms impacted her day-to-day life and aspirations. This is a chance for students to talk about broader issues of inclusion, empathy, and advocacy while inviting critical reflection on systemic barriers that individuals with disabilities face. And then the first picture book I chose is My Three Best Friends and Me, Zaleh. To summarize, this book is about Zaleh, a young blind little girl, and her best friends, Maya, Nancy, and Shine. This book is about Zaleh gaining the confidence to be an individual and be different. She felt a little bit singled out in the beginning, but by the end of the book, she learned about her own independence, and she grew from the insecurity she felt by being singled out sometimes in school. And so this book really tackles the struggles children with disabilities face on a day-to-day basis, inclusivity and sensitivity to disabilities, insecurities, resiliency, and diversity. And I chose my standard of learning. And learning and growth, I learned a lot through this picture book. I enjoyed the aspects of friendship and curiosity from her friends. For example, they wanted to be included with her learning how to use the cane, and they wanted to feel included with her braille writer. And some ways that her teachers included her were by including her own perspective in the classroom. So they used blocks for math, and they put Braille on the desks so she could read, and the students could also feel and see how she communicates and reads. And as a reader, I felt it encouraged me to explore more perspectives that differ from my own. And her journey and interactions made me think of my own experiences as a neurodivergent person with amazing friends. And then as a future educator, I aim to create an environment for my students like how her teachers did for her, and then encouraging students to share their own experiences with the classroom and integrating different methods to ensure my future students are included. And then I chose plot development as a way to integrate this book. I think this book has all the aspects I would need to introduce this topic to students. And I also believe this book would be a great way to introduce diversity and conflict and solution. And then the next book I chose is Chicken Sunday, which was a very endearing book to me. It's about Patricia Polacco's childhood experience with her neighbors, but her brothers, Stuart and Winston, African American brothers, and their grandma, Miss Ula. And it talks about misunderstandings and how they grew and how they ended up accepting Mr. Kadensky, and also how they bought her a hat she had been admiring. And it just shows friendship and forgiveness, diversity, and problem solving. And Chicken Sunday taught me cultural appreciation and how simple acts of kindness and creativity, like making Ukrainian paisansky eggs, can bring people together. As a reader, this book showed me how literature can spark inspiration for kindness amongst others and understanding. I think this book is incredible to address prejudice and acceptance. As a future educator, I realize how stories like Chicken Sunday can be used to encourage future students about culture and empathy. And then for classroom interaction or integration, I thought it would be a great idea if it would be a more interactive activity, so the children could make their own Poletsky eggs, and then we could discuss plot lines, like the climax being Mr. Kadensky's falsely accusing the children of throwing eggs at his door, and the resolution was the children making the eggs to give to him. And then the next book I chose is She Kept Dancing, summary. And so the summary is, this story is about Sydney Mesher. She is the first Rockette in history with a visible disability. And this book is about her, from her birth to the peak of her career. And it was just so inspirational. And I thought it was a powerful story. And this book was such a powerful story. I would love to read it to my future kids or future students. It emphasizes the power of determination and representation in arts. As I read, I realized how it deepened my appreciation for hardworking individuals, especially those who are given slight disadvantage with prejudice and stigmatism. It is incredible to read of her resistance and determination to continue dancing. As a future educator, this book inspired me to foster a classroom that values every student's unique contributions, and I want to be an educator who educates my students on these differences and how to respect those with differences, because they're just like everyone else with goals and dreams. So in the beginning of this book, she really struggled integrating herself into a classroom because the kids started bullying her. And I felt for her, and I want to be a teacher who addresses that problem and helps students kind of understand that everyone is made differently. So for classroom integration, this is actually something I will be doing for my field placement. I showed my presentation to my teacher, and she loved the idea. And so we'll be doing this book for next week. So I'm going to make a worksheet, and we're going to read this picture book, and then for my 7th grade, or for our 7th grade class, and we're going to go through a video, and then we're going to have worksheets that have questions like, what challenges does Sydney face as a dancer with a limb difference? And then we'll gather information from the media video and then from the book itself, and it'll detail her experiences, achievements, and the impact her story on diversity within the dance community. And then the next one is Tamales for Christmas. This was a very heartwarming story for me. It was a mirror and a window for me. So this book is about endless kindness of a grandmother who prepares thousands of tamales year-round once a year, to cheer up her family on Christmas. The story honors familial love, resiliency, and allure of tamales via beautiful visuals and a touching tale. This story is about culture, family, and tamales. And I loved this story. It was so incredible, and I loved the storytelling and illustration. So this story, I feel like I gained a lot more respect for storytelling in general, and as I extremely enjoyed the pacing of this book, I feel like I gained insight of the labor of love and culture. I learned how simple things like making tamales or making Polinsky eggs can be so heartfelt and inspiring. This book is more than just that, however. It is about family, heritage, and community. This book helped me grow as a reader because it helped me view into this culture similar to mine, yet so different, as a window. And then, as a future educator, I want to embrace different cultures and teaching practices and share literature that celebrates diversity and inclusivity. And then for the integration to a classroom, I kept it simple, but it's because I really had a clear idea of this one. I would like this book to be part of a writing exercise where students can write a narrative of their own cultural practices, similar to making tamales, and at the same time every year to prepare for Christmas shopping. So I would really like if I had a class day one day and I would be able to read a book like this and then have the children talk about their own culture and just heritage and similar experiences. And I think it would be a really good writing exercise for them. And then We March by Shane W. Evans is about the Washington March for Jobs and Freedom on August 28th, 1963. The illustration in this book was just incredible. It had a powerful message of unity and emphasized an ongoing path towards realizing these goals. And it was just so incredible to see how many people it showed and illustrated. It had so many colors, so many different types of people who they illustrated being at the march, and I thought it was just incredible to see how they made this book show the unity this march had. And this book helped me grow in admiration for the amount of people who stood up for their rights and aspirations. This book helped me gain a different perspective in a moment of history that I did not experience, and seeing the event be portrayed as unity through this picture book was incredible. As a future educator, I will spread the importance of inclusivity and educate my students to admire those who fought for their rights and admire the union people have to get equality. And then the way I could integrate this, I would like to use this book with many others to teach my students of historical events and teamwork and community they inspired. I would summarize the central themes presented in We March through the historical event it depicts. So I would love to use this as a base and then have multiple books that that my future students could possibly read or we could analyze together.